So today we're going to talk about some artists that are super exciting to talk about. Kehinde Wiley. So we're going to talk about him, we're going to talk about his artwork, then we're going to talk about a few things that I find very murky and weird surrounding his work that is not what he intends, but the surrounding kind of influences that happen. So first we're going to talk about Kehinde Wiley, and he is from LA, so he's a twin actually. So he has a twin brother. He is one of 6 children from his mom, and his mom and dad, it's kind of one of those weird situations, like mom is in the picture, dad is not in the picture, and so mom, seeing that she wants her kids to be more than she is and to do better and to be that next generation of awesome, what does she do? She sends him and his brother, when they're about 11 years old, to art lessons. They go to Jewish summer camps, and a lot of these things have a lot of real impacting lessons on his life. So then some of the things that he learns as he goes to these art lessons, and then he goes to school in San Francisco. So if you look at his early work from San Francisco, he's doing these like abnormally large afros, which he loves to always, when he does lecture series, he's always going to talk about these large afros. So here's one of them. Like, they're really kind of insane. Like, they're very interesting to look at. There are a lot of very well done. So if we're looking at craft, he clearly knows how to render an image. By render an image is to make it look realistic. It looks almost photorealistic, but at the same time it's defying gravity. These are things that could never really happen, and they're really well done. So then he goes into making these things while he's still an undergrad and starting to get into Yale. When he goes to Yale, he starts doing these things where he does these large afros where it's the same person in the same picture frame multiple times in multiple ways, but it's the same hairdo, and they connect to each other, and that there's a rhythmic pattern that we see. So if we look at this one, we see it's the same model, we see the clouds in the background are matching the pattern of the hair, we're seeing this kind of rhythm happening between the two. So we're starting to see that back and forth. We're starting to see how images come together. So now we're going to look at, so he goes through this and he starts to do these images where he goes to Harlem. So he's graduated from Yale and then he goes to Harlem. He finds a mugshot on the street and he looks at the picture and he goes, oh, this is kind of just an empathetic photo. Like, it makes you feel sad for the guy in the mugshot. Like, it's not a mugshot of someone that looks dangerous or upset. It's someone that looks genuinely sad and kind of in need. So he thinks about that, and he thinks about, as a young child, going and looking at Russian artwork and the gold frames and these opulent poses, and he looks at how the Hermitage and other, these great monuments, and he looks around and he's like, I'm black, and there's nothing here like me that represents me. So what do I do? And so he's gotten this degree from Yale, and he's gone to San Francisco to get his undergrad. And what does he do? And he's like, well, I have the talent. I'm going to make positive images of black men. So what does he do is he goes around Harlem and tries to get a particular age group of young men to model for him. And he gets them to model in regal poses based in classical paintings. So this one we're going to look at is Napoleon, and Napoleon leading the troops. And then now we have the original version. Very nice. But then we have Kehinde Wiley's version, which is at the Brooklyn Museum. Very nice. So he loves to explain this painting. I'm going to put some links below to a lecture that he gives where he specifically talks about this painting and how he kind of referencing that back and forth and that pull. And all I have to say is, if you are black and you want to see pictures of yourself in an art history context, he is someone that you need to know and need to understand. So he's going through these things where he's like pulling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, what he is known for, if we go back to their image here of the hair and it's swirling, it's matching the back and forth, he starts to make these images. He's starting to make these images in Harlem where he's using historical backgrounds, these kind of like historical poses, but then he's giving them a modern background and a modern kind of sense of wear. So this is something a lot of religious artworks did back in like the 1700s, is where they would put religious figures in today's clothing. So that's what he's doing, is he's giving this idea of power and struggle to people that don't have this in a positive way. It's amazing and it's great and it's wonderful, and you need to Google his work, and the link below is to his in the description box to his website, and also there will be a link to his Instagram page. So he's doing these images, and so he's doing images. At first he's doing these images of men in Harlem, and then he goes to Brazil and does these images, and then he goes to Israel, does these images, and you see that he's starting to play on these backgrounds of men in traditional clothing from where they're from, kind of that hip-hop culture where it's very street, but it's also giving people power and influence that never really had that voice before. So we're seeing the voice come to fruition, and people that deserve to have a voice. Now, so we're seeing this voice, and we see it Brazil, Israel, United States. He also starts to look at things in Africa, and then he comes back and his body of work has gone mostly male. And then he starts to do something different, where he has done these elaborate backgrounds and these beautiful portraits of males. And he has kind of taken that image of the black female out of his body of work. But then not only does he put her back into his work, he puts her in the most elaborate, high art way he can, is that by not only putting her in his work, he puts her in regal positions, he gives her the best hair, and then he doesn't put her in streetwear. He kind of like ebbs away from hip-hop culture, but then goes to couture culture, where it's a high culture. So here we have some of his portraits of women, and you'll see that they're clearly based in Kehinde Wiley aesthetics of an elaborate background, a composition that's based in historical art, and then he's elevating these women to an idea of positivity and regalness, and it's truly beautiful. And we start to look at these paintings of women and how that they feel educated, and they feel like positive role models. Like, these are women that you aspire to meet them, you aspire to talk to them, and you feel that they will be educated and they'll be warming and receptive, and that they will be fighters and champions of black and people of color's rights, and they look amazing. And I love this one because she shows a little bit of like, I don't need to talk to you, but you're gonna want to talk to me, and I do want to talk to her, and I want to know who this character is. Now, so we see that his dialogue has gone for both men and women, and there's a very high culture to it, and these people are amazing. So there's been a few criticisms of his work, saying that he's making fun of black culture, he's doing a cartoon of black culture, he's doing kind of like not monopolizing, but he's trying to take advantage of black culture, which I don't find true, because as he speaks, he's very positive about black culture in America, and how there needs to be those everyday Martin Luther Kings, how there needs to be those positive images of black people in society, so that if you are a young person of color, that you go to a museum and you see these Dürers, Van Dycks, Vermeers on the wall, that you don't only see black people as a third-tier character far in the background who you almost don't even recognize, or just a woman holding a bowl of flowers and you don't even pay attention to, and the cat is more important then. But here you have people of color standing in the forefront, who we are the most important, and we are valued in society, and we do add and we do contribute. And I think these are the things that we need to be talking about when we talk about his work, and not negativity, because he believes through his work that it shows a positive, kind of wonderful idea that all people are included and all people are valued. Then we get to, here's some weird kind of things that are about his work. So I'm not going to say much about the Obama painting, but it's not his first celebrity painting. He, in the National Portrait Gallery in DC, not in the Hall of Presidents where this one will be at, but upstairs where it talks about people who have contributed to American society, there is another painting by him of LL Cool J. Then, if we look at his catalog of work, we'll also find that the very last commissioned portrait of Michael Jackson was done by Kehinde Wiley. This is not my favorite work. There's also 3 works at the Brooklyn Museum that are kind of tucked away in a corner on the 2nd floor. They're not great Kehinde Wileys. The Napoleon leading the army through the Alps is a much better painting, and it's in the main gallery. You'll enjoy that a lot more. The ones upstairs are a little more, you see that they're almost finished. They feel like he came back, put his first painting down, did the underpainting, did a little bit of touch up, but then left them. And they leave you a little wanting. Like, I enjoy the composition, I enjoy the color work, but I feel like there could be more added. And then we look at some of his other kind of works that we talk about people who are kind of the beefs of his artwork. So if we look at his work, they're beautiful paintings. And it's unfortunate that I say this, is that from what I understand and from my research, nothing has sold for more than, I think, $750,000 for one of his paintings. Which to me is, A, if you're an art collector, these paintings are a steal of a deal. If you haven't already bought one, because President Obama had his painting done by him, now it's putting him on a much higher pedestal, and hopefully his artwork will start to fetch the prices that it already deserves. These prices are significantly lower, even though people, the criticisms of why these prices are so low is that there's not a large black market of art collectors. There's not a large collection of people who collect artwork of people of color. A lot of museums feel that they only need one, if any. So it's a hard sell, even though these are beautiful works. The Menil Collection in Houston owns one. The Fort Worth Museum in Texas, they did a retrospective of him. There's several in DC. If you can find a gallery that has one, go and see them. They're beautiful. I've recently, I believe last year, I went to the Christie's fine art sale, and I was kind of heartbroken when I saw a portrait of a man. I forget the name of the painting, but when I saw the price, in the room you had Cause and Shepherd Fairies that were in the 80s to 90s, $100,000. And then you had the Joel Shapiros and these other contemporary male artists, and then who their artwork doesn't seem to have taken as long to produce as a Kehinde Wiley. But then you look at the Kehinde Wiley price and it barely cracked $40,000 on estimated fetching price. And it kind of broke my heart that this was something that clearly was, the technique was way more valuable, but because the art market doesn't want him as much, I guess, I just couldn't wrap my mind around why it was valued so low. It's such a beautiful painting and it was so incredible to see. I found a picture of it, but I couldn't find the name, so that's right here. And it's kind of sad to see artists who are so talented not receive the amount of money that their work deserves. Now, the links below are to his work. If you don't know who he is, you should. If you're a person of color, you really should know his work. If you have the opportunity to go see a show of his, do it. I don't know of any right now, but if there are, I've put a link below. Go ahead and subscribe, and thanks for watching.